I'm originally from Southern California. I grew up in San Fernando Valley, and in San Fernando Valley, in the neighborhoods that I lived in, it was very similar to, it was exactly poverty. I lived in communities where we went from home to home. We weren't sure where we were going to sleep at night. We weren't sure if we were going to have food at the table, and I really wasn't sure the next time I was going to see my parents, as they both worked 2 jobs. It was a life that was very normal to me because everyone in my family had experienced that before me. Poverty was something that we grew up in. It's something we experienced. It was a way of life for us. And in the year 2010, my stepfather moved to South Louisiana because he got a job as an offshore diver for a Stolt offshore company. He was here for a couple of months. He saved up some money, and he did something that we thought was never possible. He signed a lease for an apartment. A 2-bedroom apartment that had a washer and dryer. It had a restroom. It had a kitchen and a small living area. And it was something that we could call home for the first time in a long time. Moving to Louisiana was scary for me because at the age of 10 years old, I thought that the whole world consisted of Southern California. Moving to Louisiana meant that there was going to be a lot of dirt roads and alligators, and I wasn't sure of how this was going to be a better scenario for my family. When we moved to Lafayette, it was a pivotal time for our family. For the first time in my life, I didn't have to worry about where I was going to sleep. I didn't have to worry about whether I was going to have the resources I needed to get my homework done. I didn't have to worry about whether or not my mom was going to be home to tuck me in at night. She was a stay-at-home mom for the first time in her life, and I'll never forget the day that she met me at the bus stop on my first day home from school. I'll never forget the first time she painted my nails and gave me an at-home manicure, or the first time she finally caved and gave me highlights. Ladies, you know what I'm talking about. You put a cap on and you pull right through. I'll never forget the first time I got the flu, because I was in the 7th grade and my mom was home with me every single day to take care of me. These are moments I cherish because it was a moment in my life that I finally felt like we had a normal family. Unfortunately, after 5 years of being in Louisiana, my parents divorced. And when my parents divorced, that meant that my father was going to move back to California, and he didn't want us to follow him. My mom became a single mom of 4 overnight. We had literally nothing to our name because she hadn't worked in 5 years. We had clothes in a suitcase, and we were homeless. At that time, luckily, we were able to move in with my mom's friend, and some other things came to light. My dad had been battling a drug addiction. He wasn't my normal dad anymore, and he made some harsh decisions in abandoning our family. My mother was caught off guard. She knew he had an addiction. She didn't realize to the extent of what it was, and in order to cope with her depression and her grief, she resorted to alcoholism. At the age of 14, going on 15 years old, I rolled up my sleeves and I made the decision to take care of my family. I wasn't really shocked because this was normal for my family again, for the teenagers to drop out, to take care of their families, to assist with the parents, to get a job if they could. And fortunately enough for me, I had an educator who saw what was going on, an educator just like all of you. She pulled me aside one day because my grades were slipping, my attitude had switched, and I no longer wanted to be at school. Her name was Nadine Carlson. She was my family and consumer sciences teacher. She said, "Serena, you've got to tell me what's going on. Your grades are slipping, you're at risk of failing, and I'm worried." And I said, "Miss Nadine, you don't want to know what's going on in my family." She was the happiest, most loving woman I had ever met. And I didn't want to break her heart. And so I told her what was going on. She immediately got on the phone and called all the schools that my siblings were attending and said, "These kids need to be pulled in to talk to someone. There's some things going on we need to address." And that was the moment I realized that Miss Nadine wasn't just an educator. She was my saving grace. She was my mom when my mom couldn't be my mom. She taught me how to dress myself. She taught me how to have respect for others. She taught me how to speak in public, how to write proficiently. She taught me how to work alongside others and have care and passion for my family and my community. Ultimately, she asked me to join her organization, Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America. In addition to that, each one of my siblings got involved with the school program. My youngest brother was offered a free band instrument. We were a low-income family, so he was offered an opportunity to join the band. When he went in there and picked out an instrument, he thought, I'm going to get the biggest bang for my buck, and he came home with a tuba. My sister has always been brilliant. She's 4 years younger than me, so when my sister was born, she was my best friend. And when I would come home from school, I'd teach her everything I learned that day. So by the time she was in the first grade, she was doing multiplication and long division. So when her grade started slipping, it was a pretty big deal. She had an interest in the arts, and because of that, she was transferred into an honors program out of the school that provided a free art program. She was given clay and sketchbooks, paints, brushes, anything she needed to get her projects done. My other brother tried out for the track team. He, with the help of the PTA group, was able to afford his uniform. He had transportation to and from every meet and practice, and snacks at every single meet and practice. I got to travel all over the U.S., attending leadership conferences, learning more about community and learning more about leadership. I think I could almost quote the mission statement. Years have gone by, and I think the biggest decision that Miss Nadine made in my life was to not only help myself and my siblings, but my mother as well. Miss Nadine got my mom connected with programs that gave her free counseling services and addiction recovery services. She helped her get into a couple of classes that taught her some new job skills because she didn't have a very well thought out resume. And my mom got a job as a deli clerk at Super One Foods in Lafayette, Louisiana, making $8.10 an hour. Not exactly enough money to feed a family of 5, but she made it work. Fast forward to today, and there's a lot to be thankful for. And a lot of it wouldn't be here without Miss Nadine Carlson. Today, my youngest brother is attending UL Lafayette, and he's pursuing a degree in music. My sister is she graduated high school at the age of 16. She's brilliant. She wanted to go to New York City to become an artist, and my mom said, no ma'am, you're not going to New York City. We'll revisit this when you're 18. And so my sister started working at a cake shop in Lafayette. She still works for that cake shop today, and she's the head cake decorator. She makes beautiful, elaborate cakes with figurines and sculptures on it. I keep begging her to go to Cake Wars. My other brother graduated from high school. He went on to join the Navy, completed 4 years in the Navy. He took a couple of years off because he was homesick, re-enlisted in the Army, and he's choosing the Army to make a career, and he wants to become a medic. In 2012, I became the first member of my family to graduate from college. And that day, I handed my mom my diploma. Was probably the happiest day of her life up until that moment. She was so proud. She said, I don't know how my kids have made it. I don't know why they're so great, because I haven't been a great mom. And I looked at her and I said, Mom, the only reason I pushed through and I persevered is because of you. You showed me this. You showed me I could do this. And ultimately, she said, I have to thank Miss Nadine Carlson. Because without that woman, none of us would have succeeded. None of us would have known about the programs that were available to us. None of us would have known that there were opportunities to succeed, and none of us knew that we could break the stereotypes and the statistics that our community was facing us with. Because of you, the educators, the game changers, the story changers, you are able to pour into the lives of students and individuals across this parish in ways that are inconceivable in many ways. The blessings that were bestowed on my family all those years ago are still reaping a harvest today. I will never be in poverty again. I will never limit myself to what the world says I should be. I will always pursue more. I will always dream more, and I will always learn more so that I can be more. And that happens because of educators just like you. So when you go back into your classrooms, when you go back onto your campuses, I hope that you are inspired and empowered to go the extra mile for those students like I know you do every day. And if you get weary or if you get tired, if you feel like what you're doing is not enough, I strongly suggest otherwise. Because even through my fits, and even through my tantrums, and even through my self-pity, Miss Nadine was able to strike an emotion with me that has lasted for over a decade now. You have that same opportunity. The dollars you give to United Way go to programs just like the programs that were funded all those years ago that helped my family. So even outside of the classroom, you are making a difference. You are empowering and impacting our community in more ways than one. And for that, I thank you. Unfortunately, poverty still exists. And unfortunately, divorce still happens. But luckily, there are people just like you and programs in this community that can help a family be transformed just like mine was. And with your help, I hope we can do that in this coming year. Thank you so much.